Tensions flare at the Uva Provincial Council over the transfer of the Finance Secretary.
Uninvited former chairman opens a multi-purpose building at the Biyagama Pradesha Sabha.
A member of the Karuna faction was involved in the assassination of Raviraj. Police officer makes revelation in court.
MP Buddhika Patirana receives a letter requesting a stamp duty of 50 rupees to collect compensation amounting to 50 cents.
Hello there, very good evening and welcome to your Primetime News Bulletin. I'm Shain Silva.
And I'm Bernadine Jazz Singh here. Now let's take a look at your top story. The Sri Lanka Navy's International Maritime Conference, Gore Dialogue 2016, commenced in Colombo today. The two-day conference organized by the Navy under aegis of the Minister of Defence is being held for the 7th consecutive year.
President Maithripala Sirisena graced the inauguration session of the conference as the chief guest. Finance Minister Ravi Karunanaka and Field Marshal Minister Sarath Fonseca were among the other notable attendees at the conference. The conference, which will conclude tomorrow, will see more than 120 participants from 40 countries and 12 international organizations discuss thematic issues relating to fostering strategic maritime partnerships this year. The conference also saw the participation of several Navy chiefs from various countries.
The maritime domain and its affairs today have become one of the crucial factors that have the ability to decide and influence the present as well as the future affairs to a great extent. I am confident that our present as well as future contributions in the field of trade and energy and security will be able to make a significant impact on the Indian Ocean region. Sri Lanka has a huge responsibility in ensuring the continuous flow of this vital lifeline. As no nation is capable of addressing challenges and threats in the maritime domain in isolation, we too seek cooperation and coordination from all nations to ensure that the Indian Ocean is kept free from all threats and challenges. I strongly believe that our future lies very much in the ocean.
I would say the partnerships matter more than anything in the present context. If the partnerships are prosperous, we have to have the confidence in our partners. The confidence building among the partners can ensure regional stability by way of eliminating misunderstanding and mistrust. Today, the Sri Lanka is emerging as a major maritime hub in the region. The Colombo harbour, which transship 70% of containers in the Indian subcontinent, shows our active involvement in the maritime trade. 95 foreign warships from navies and coast guards around the world visited ports in Sri Lanka from 8 January 2015, the day the new government of His Excellency the President Maithripala Sirisena came into power today. This number shows the confidence placed by the foreign countries on Sri Lankan government and the importance of our harbours as a major logistic hub even for the foreign warships.
A tense situation erupted during the budget debate at the Uva Provincial Council today. The tense situation arose as the JVP Provincial Councillor Samantha Vidyaratna raised a question as to how the budget debate could go ahead in a backdrop where the administration officers, including the secretaries of the Provincial Council, have refrained from all work as part of a trade union action.
When members of the UNP and the SLFP joined for lunch today, you convened a meeting in the lunchroom. However, we went there to have lunch. The Chief Minister asked me to leave, saying that there is going to be a private discussion. Are these the decisions that you agreed on there?
දෙසැම්බර් 15 කරලා අපි මට තියෙන සභාවේ කරුත් ආරක්ෂක නෙතන මේ දෙසැම්බර් 15 කරලා අපි ඉතාලිය යන්නේ නැද්ද ඒවා මාරකට දානවා.
A new multi-purpose building of the Biyagama Pradeshiya Sabha constructed in the Mavaramanthe area was declared open this morning by a group including the former chairman of the council, who incidentally was not invited for the ceremony. The event was to be held today with the participation of several ministers and MPs.
A group of former members of the Pradeshiya Sabha, including the former chairman Ananda Ganepola, arrived at the location this morning and held an opening ceremony. These former local government representatives had recently obtained membership of the Sri Lanka Podujana Peramuna, led by former Minister Professor G.L. Pires. The group later defaced the commemorative plaque at the building. This building comprises of a public library, a preschool and an auditorium. Upon declaring opening the auditorium, the group also used wicks fashioned from a torn-up handkerchief to light up the traditional oil lamp. Former Chairman Ananda Ganepola addressed the gathering in the auditorium of the building. This building was constructed in the era of Mahinda Rajapaksa. We laid the foundation stone in 2014 and it was completed by 2015. The Yahapalana government did not open it for 2 years. We do not care if they open it, but the electorate organizer of the SLFP should be here. We are easy, he is not invited. A tense situation arose when the chief opposition whip of the Western Provincial Council, George Pereira, arrived at the scene. Nevertheless, shortly afterwards, the group, including George Pereira and the former chairman, re-entered the premises to the sound of drums. Both factions also partook in a tea party organized parallel to the opening ceremony. I do not have a problem with who built it or who did not build this building. I received an invitation, I accepted it and came here. The name of my colleague is in the Provincial Council, Manjula Prasanna Sampath, has been mentioned in this invitation. This was something that was undertaken on the guidance of our Chief Minister Isuradeva Priya. Listen to what I have to say. I am not finished. Listen to me.
Speaking in Parliament today, Prime Minister Ranil Wickremesinghe noted that a proposal has been put forward to increase the allowance paid to MPs to 100,000 rupees.
A proposal has been put forward to increase the allowance paid to MPs to 100,000 rupees to be spent on their constituents. This is not for their personal use. A sum of 200,000 to 300,000 rupees is paid to maintain their officers. There are gift expenses when you go for a wedding or anything for that matter, but we don't have that. Since we couldn't come up with one single amount, we recommended that a sum of 100,000 be given out in order for every parliamentarian to do their work. This is an additional allowance. What I opine is that the salary should also be increased, but that has not been done as yet.
The compensation paid to persons who will lose land as a result of the construction of expressways was brought up in Parliament today. During the debate, MP Buddhika Pathirana made a startling revelation.
Honourable Minister, the value of the land that will be lost by people living along the 120 road from Pamankadu to Pokunuvita has been estimated at between 300,000 and 350,000 rupees. But the actual value is about 500,000 rupees in that area. I wish to know what your ministry's stance is on that disparity. Honourable Speaker, in the process of paying compensation, first the Divisional Secretariat conducts an examination, then it goes to the Super Large Committee in the Ministry, following which it goes before Review Board. The decision is reached following examinations by 3 bodies. The task of valuation does not come under our ministry. It falls under the Finance Ministry. They are all saying that they have been paid between 300 and 350,000. It is your responsibility to intervene and resolve this matter. I will try, but the final decision rests with the valuation department. Such things happen when land is acquired for expressways. I will give you an example. It has been 4 months since my father passed away, but I still get a letter with 2 25 rupee stamps asking me to come and collect the compensation, which is 1 rupee and 50 cents. My sister and I get a letter asking us to bring 2 25 rupee stamps to collect the compensation, amounting to which is 50 cents. This is a joke. We receive a letter by registered post to bring 2 25 rupee stamps to collect 50 cents. I think the cost of sending a letter by registered post is about 28 rupees. This has to be investigated.
Speaking in Parliament today, JVP leader and Chief Opposition Whip Anurukumara Dissanayaka accused the Prime Minister of suppressing the media.
We are all aware that during the previous dark decade, many of our journalists were murdered. But what is happening today? They have failed to conclude the investigations into any of those cases, correctly identify those responsible and punish them. We all know that Sirasa was bombed, but to date, they still cannot find who did it. I have an excerpt of a speech made by the Prime Minister in Kandy on the 23rd of July 2016. He said that the editor of the Daily Mirror newspaper had called for his resignation, and that now if the Daily Mirror editor does not resign, he will have to see what should be done. Is this not a new form of media suppression? Even though there are no kidnappings or white vans or assaults on journalists, we consider this statement made by the Prime Minister as a serious threat. We do not know how the Prime Minister's henchmen will react when he makes such statements, because he has given the signal. That was something I've always said about the Daily Mirror editor. I will not withdraw a single word I said. I have not suppressed anyone. What do you think I am trying to do? To burn down the Daily Mirror and Vijay officers? Kidnap him? He can't even be carried. I will say what I have to say. That is something different. Now Sirasa is constantly finding fault with me. Kili Maharaja is an old friend, but I will not go there and hurl stones at him or abduct him. I will respond to these if needed. If not, I will refrain from doing so. If this issue had not come up, it would be a huge problem for me. Why? Because the gossip won't spread. I have the right to speak about media freedom more than anyone else here. If no one is being abducted, then there is no problem in saying it verbally, is there? They attack, so we attack. Then the country eventually knows who is in the right. The truth is bitter. The truth is painful. We stand committed towards revealing this truth on behalf of the people.
The Socialist People's Front is calling on the authorities to immediately file action against the wrongdoers involved in the central bank bond scam.
The Parliamentary Committee has now come to a conclusion with regard to the theft at the central bank. So what is happening now? Well, there is only one thing that could be done. That is for legal action to be taken against those involved in it. The chief suspect is Arjuna Mahendran and the second is his son-in-law. But that is not happening. How much more time do they need for this? We do not know. The Prime Minister did tell us one thing though, that the matter has been directed to the Attorney General. Now even on a previous occasion, our complaints were directed to the Attorney General, but nothing happened on the part of the Attorney General's office. I charge that the Prime Minister is a defendant too in the central bank theft and that investigation should be held into him. So the police directed this matter to the Attorney General. Well, that was it. There was no response thereafter. I told the Prime Minister himself that none of this will ever happen as long as he remains in his position. The rule of law lies beneath Ranil Wickremesinghe. He is sitting on it.
Questions were raised in Parliament today over the smuggling of narcotics.
What is being seized is just a small proportion of what is being brought into the country. So, Honourable Speaker, I suppose you can figure out the quantity of drugs which actually flows into the country. If all consignments of illegally smuggled drugs are seized, it is unlikely that smugglers would even attempt to import more drugs to the country. Moreover, I cannot comprehend that such rackets can function on its own without the protection of a powerful political connection. The drug trade is definitely prevalent in the country through the intervention of various groups involved in the political field. Honourable Speaker, even though consignments of drugs are discovered, the person who has brought in the drugs is never found. They have failed to arrest anyone responsible and bring them before court. What are the results of the investigations which are being conducted on the latest consignment of drugs and the drugs which were seized before?
The matter of political connections has not come up in the investigations, but we are focusing on putting an end to Sri Lanka being used as a hub for the transshipment of drugs and also to put an end to the use of drugs in the country. None of this is an easy task, but we are getting all the necessary assistance for it. We are also strengthening our organizations for this purpose.
Let's now take a look at a number of court stories.
The examination of evidence against 3 former Navy intelligence officers on their alleged involvement in the murder of former MP Nadaraja Raviraj and his security officer took place before a special jury for a 4th day today at the Colombo High Court. Presenting evidence on behalf of the prosecution, Police Constable Prathviraj Manamperi, responding to the cross-question posed to him by the defence attorney, said that during his service in the north-eastern province, he was engaged as a close acquaintance of senior officers who worked with ex-LTTE member Karuna Amman's faction. He added that on the advice of senior officers, he engaged in orchestrating plans with the team led by Karuna Amman to assassinate members of the LTTE. The witness also informed court that though he made efforts to come to Colombo amidst many death threats that were made at him over the past, it has not stopped. The police constable went on to state that on the direction of Palanisamy, a member of the Karuna faction who was subsequently identified in Colombo, he was involved with the murder of MP Nadaraja Raviraj, even though he did not know it was the MP who was to be assassinated. Meanwhile, the witness noted that since his senior officers were not aware of the ties which were maintained with the members of the Karuna faction, he did not want to reveal the plans to assassinate former MP Nadaraja Raviraj. The witness said that he rejected the allegations levelled against him, citing that he was involved in many murders that were masterminded by the Karuna faction. The witness went on to note that he was involved in an operation to defeat the LTTE while building ties with the Karuna faction. Former commanding officer of the Police Special Task Force, DIG KLM Sarat Chandra, was released on bail today. As a special investigative unit of the police headquarters did not object to bail being granted, Colombo Chief Magistrate Gihan Pilapitia ordered for the Deputy Inspector General of Police to be released. The former senior police officer was arrested by the Special Investigative Unit of the Police Headquarters on charges that he had misused a jeep belonging to the Police Special Task Force. The Court of Appeal petition filed by Venerable Badivavar, Diyasena Thera and 8 fishermen from the Kandakuliya area in Puttlam against the use of illegal fishing methods and dynamite for fishing activities in the Puttlam area, which were causing environmental destruction, was taken up today. The Minister of Fisheries, the Attorney General and 6 others were cited as respondents in the case.
Religious observances were held yesterday and today to mark 3 years since the passing of the renowned educationalist R.I.T. Ullis.
The late R.I.T. Ullis, who commenced his professional career as a teacher, soon became an educationalist of international repute, who rendered a yeoman's service to the country's education sector. A Dhamma sermon was held at his residence last night to mark the third death anniversary under the patronage of the Anunayaka of the Mayawatha chapter, Venerable Niyangoda Vijitasiri Thera. A group of prominent personalities, including politicians and professionals, were present at the occasion. An almsgiving was also held this afternoon for the Mahasangha.
As the Ceylon tea industry prepares to celebrate 150 years, it is also under threat. Over the next 5 days, we explore these threats through a special report. In this first report, we will look at the history of Ceylon tea and where the industry is right now.
With tea plantations covering the equivalent of 220,000 sports pitches, it's hard to imagine Sri Lanka's landscape without them. Visit the main tea-growing regions, and tea plantations dominate the landscape. But without this man, some parts of Sri Lanka might look very different. In 1867, Scotsman James Taylor discovered that Sri Lanka had the perfect conditions for producing high-quality tea. His discovery saved the economy from the collapse of the coffee industry after it was devastated by disease, and shaped the country for years to come. The success of tea fueled development of the island's transport infrastructure. Many tea estates were owned by British planters until they were nationalised in 1971, following Sri Lanka's independence. After many tea estates made losses, the government allowed some estates to be part privatised in 1991. These estates became what are known as regional plantation companies. The estate workforce was, and still is, made up nearly entirely of people who left South India in the late 19th century to escape famine. Encouraged by government subsidies, a growing number of smallholders are now responsible for 73% of Ceylon tea production. At one time, Sri Lanka was the leading exporter of tea. However, in the last 20 years, it has been overtaken by India and Kenya. With Sri Lankan export values falling by nearly 30% between 2014 and 2016. Ceylon tea remains highly prized for its unique taste and quality, but it is no longer competitive. Sri Lanka tea pluckers are paid more than their counterparts in other countries, but pluck far fewer leaves. And yet, many still live in abject poverty. Over decades, the majority of tea sales have come from the Middle East and Russia, but war and falling oil prices have decimated demand. Despite a slump in global tea prices, Ceylon tea is now selling for record amounts at auction. But how long will buyers be prepared to pay these prices? What lies behind the low productivity? Climate change, political interference, labour relations, or social welfare? These are just some issues facing an industry that employs more than 1 million Sri Lankans. People whose lives are inextricably linked to the survival of the Ceylon tea industry. In this series of films, we will explore the threats facing Sri Lanka's greatest global brand, Ceylon tea.
More on this story will be aired on Primetime News at 9 tomorrow night.
A Christmas celebration organised by the Office for National Unity and Reconciliation was held at the St. Joseph's College Auditorium in Colombo today.
The event, organised to promote religious harmony and coexistence among school students, included Christmas-themed performances by students from several schools in the Colombo district. The event was graced by a group including multi-faith religious leaders and former President Chandrika Bandaranayake Kumaratunga. In the end, all of the religious philosophers teach us the same thing in a different way. The teachings of Jesus Christ, the teachings of Lord Buddha, the Upanishads and the teachings of the Prophet all note that all people are equal and that all people have equal rights. As a failure to understand this, in Sri Lanka in the recent past, the country had to face a terrible destruction.
වටහා නොගත්ත නිසා මහා විනාශයක් මේ රටේ අපි සියලු දෙනාම දන්නා පරිදි ඇති වුණා.
Here's a look at protests staged in different parts of the island today.
The Bochaluda Singha Road in Gampula, which was constructed during colonial rule, is in a dilapidated state today. A 1 kilometer stretch of the 3 kilometer road is completely damaged. This road is used by around 500 families residing in Udasingapura, Gonakigava, Akurasiya, Wattekade, Ambavita, Ambuluwava and Helasirugama. Villagers took to the road today and engaged in a demonstration in order to draw the attention of the problem. Several doctors from different parts of the island carried out a demonstration during their lunch hour today in opposition of the budget. The demonstration, titled the 2017 Budget, that is destroying the state service and the country, was organized by the Government Medical Officers Association.
In the meantime, ships arriving at the Norachole power plant have affected the lives of the fishing community living in the Mampuria village.
I'm in the coastal lines of Norachole. Behind me is the Norachole power plant. Ships arrive here carrying coal. This has affected the fisherfolk adversely.
The livelihood of many villagers in Mampuria Kalpitia depend on fishing. They have been facing numerous problems over the years. One of the main problems they face is the negative impact of the coal that is being brought in ships to fire the Norachole power plant. Residents say the Sri Lanka Navy will declare this area as a restricted area as the ships have been arriving at the plant frequently. Fishermen say the coal that is being released into the sea has damaged their boats. Around 1,000 families depend on the 200 fishing boats in the area. Fishermen also charge that despite promises made to resolve issues that may arise due to the power plant, nothing has been done so far.
With that, we wrap up Primetime News. I'm Bernadine Jazz Singha.
And I'm Shane Silva. Take care and good night.